Hey guys, Steve at Mud Bass and Brass. So today what I'm going to talk about is building your basic worm bin. Basically all of my composting of my food scraps and whatnot that comes from the kitchen, I compost with worms. And what it creates is this perfect fertilizing agent, worm castings. It's all organic, it's all natural, and you really can't beat it. You know, composting with worms is probably, I don't know, 50% quicker than composting just with bacteria and whatnot in your traditional bins. The worms are these perfect little workers that do nothing but poop, eat, and have other baby worms. And that life cycle just keeps going until all the food is gone. And then you take those worms and you put them in another bin and it starts all over again. So what I have here, basically, is all that you'll need to get your first worm bin started. Got a couple of covers of which we'll only need one. What I chose were these Bella, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're 30-gallon containers. This is a decent sized container. You just have to be careful. If you can't pick this up full of dirt, then you should go with a smaller bin, because these bins get pretty heavy and they get pretty full. So basically what you have is two of the exact same size bins. And with these two bins, one is going to fit inside the other, like so. And you need two empty bottles. They can be anything as long as they're the same size. And you need the covers. Okay, and what that's going to do is that's going to sit inside your worm bin. So if you take a look, what I have here is the bin that the worms are going to live in. And if you look, you can see where I drilled out holes in the bottom. Okay, you just have to drill enough of them that liquid and whatnot will drain from the initial bin, because the worms they could rot. It gets too wet inside, so you need drainage. One of the byproducts of all composting, whether it's with worms or whether it's in your compost bin, is water. So you need something that's going to drain through. So you need a collection bin. Now, having said that, you can just let this drain right into the ground, but that's okay. It's nice because that liquid that collects, you can take that and feed your plants with it. And all they do is you put these two bottles, okay, in the bottom. Doesn't make a difference if they move around. And then this guy is basically just going to sit on the top. That'll allow about this much, well, the thickness of the bottle. It'll allow that thickness of the bottle for fluid to collect. Okay, and like I said, you take that and you just dump it into your garden, or you can dump it into your other compost pile. It's really good stuff. And then what you're going to do is just use one of the bins to cover it. Okay, and that'll keep out animals and everything else. If they're going to want to get in there, they're going to get in there. Now, the nice thing about the bins that I chose is that they already have little holes here for air to get in. You just have to poke them through, because you do want air to get inside here, and you're going to want to keep this someplace where it's shady, because if it gets too hot, you're going to cook your worms, which isn't good either. So, in order to get this started now, you need to put something on the bottom of this. I usually cut some live branches and just lay it on the bottom so that your little holes don't get clogged. So what you're going to want to do is grab yourself a little pair of clippers, find yourself some low-hanging branches, and make some cuts. Then what you'll do is you'll take your food scraps and everything from your kitchen, your old bread, your coffee grounds, your eggshells, your skins, all that stuff, as long as it's not meat or fat, that goes in there, and then you add your worms. And like I said before, I ordered my initial set of worms probably about 4 years ago from a place in Charleston called the Worm Ladies, Charleston, Rhode Island. And that got it started. I've never added any else extra worms. They just keep reproducing. I got thousands and thousands of them. I have about bins. I think this will be my 7th or 8th bin that I have going. And the more you do, the more it adds up. And the more it adds up, the more perfect soil you get. You've seen in some of our videos, we use that to make worm tea, and that's what we use to fertilize our vegetables. This is a great system. It really is, and it's all self-sustaining. So the only thing I need to do is add food scraps to this, and then I'll get some worms from one of my old bins, just a big handful of them, and throw them in there, and they'll stop working until this is totally full, and they'll wipe it all out. They'll get all the food turned to castings. Then what you do is after you add your worms to this, every once in a while you put a little sprinkling of soil over the top. I find that what it does is, you'll notice there's already some fruit flies in this this bit because I had this sitting outside. It keeps down the flies and whatnot. They do manage to get in there. They go through these little holes and whatnot. And the worms need that to help digest. They need that little bit of soil. And that's really it. You add your worms, you get it going. And before you know it, this thing will be a big full bin of perfect, absolute perfect fertilizer for your garden. So these are my 4 bins, excuse me, my 6 bins that are all active worm growing bins. And let's see, we'll look at some of the older ones here. You look inside, you'll see the casting all on the top, okay? Now this was a bin of worms that was started probably earlier in the spring. And if we just grab a shovel here, there you go. There's all the little friends all inside. You can see this is an egg carton. It's just some eggs, and that's what we're looking for. So that is an active. If you look really closely, see that little wiggler there? Right there. Those are the babies. So I'm going to take some of these worms and add them to that bin that we built, and these worms will get that bin started. And that's how the whole cycle continues to go. And this bin will just keep going. It's probably got another couple of months to go before it's totally finished. Maybe even quicker, maybe even a month. And that'll do it. Yeah, this is the last step of getting your worm bin started. So you saw me this morning. We grabbed ourselves a little bucket of worms from my existing bins. And as you saw yesterday, we put our bin together. So come take a peek again. We'll review. We've got the worm bin sitting atop of the collection bin. 2 bottles underneath. And there's the leaves and the food scraps. So over the next day or so, we've collected yet another thing of food scraps, so we'll sprinkle those in there. We'll give that a rinse and dump that in also. And here we have our worms. Alright, so as you saw this morning, it's a collection of infant worms and big worms. And there they are, look at that. And you know, one thing I failed to mention before, when I put my eggs in my composting bin, I like to keep them whole because I find that the worms like to lay their eggs inside. So if you look closely with the camera, you'll see really close with the camera, you'll see all these these are infant worms. See them? They're babies. Those are all the babies. These will grow real quick. So we just kind of spread these throughout, and that's it. That's all it takes. And these guys will start going. So we'll just keep adding food scraps to this bin, and until it gets filled up to the top. I'll cover it in soil, we'll cap it, and just let the worms do their job. In about 3 months or so, this will be an entire bin of worm castings, and you'll have the perfect fertilizer for your garden. I ordered all my worms from the Charleston worm ladies from Charleston, Rhode Island. What you do, and that's how I started about 4 years ago, the red wigglers are the best worms to compost with. And you can order, I don't know, about 200 or 300 of them, worms at all different stages, and I don't know, it's like maybe $10 delivered. So those are the best ones to order. So that ends this segment, and remember, as we always say at Mud, Bass, and Brass, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.